Good morning, good morning, good morning, happy people in the planet. Welcome. We have an amazing guest with us today. And before we get going, I want to just give you some sense of who this wonderful woman is. It's Megan McCann of McCann Partners. Megan is an established IT recruitment and technology service leader known for building and leading highly successful IT service firms and for the work that she does in advancing diversity and cultivate talent across the technology industry. As CEO of McCann Partners, which she founded in 2011, Megan and her team continue to expand their reach and influence, working with a growing portfolio of diverse and innovative organizations, from Chicago-based startups to companies with a global footprint. Megan's impact on the tech community far exceeds her day-to-day work as CEO of her own firm. Passionate about attracting, retaining, and advancing women in technology, Megan is proud co-founder of ARA, a national organization that seeks to promote women in technology and leadership through mentorship, networking, and open discussion. She is also a founding partner of the Chicago Executive Women's Network Group and was recently recognized as a 2018 Enterprising Woman of the Year, a Chicagoan 50 on Fire finalist, and a Midwest Woman in Tech Awards finalist. I mean, come on. How about that bio?
Welcome, you. Thanks for having me, Andy. It's so wonderful to see you.
Oh, it's so great to see you. I think we met, what was it, back in the winter at a networking event where you were keynote speaker.
Yes, to be back out and networking in person, what a gift that would be.
I know, here we are just living our lives on video nowadays.
I know. Well, it's still wonderful to be able to see people though. That makes all the difference in the world.
It's a gift, right?
Yeah.
In a far off time, this would have been far more isolating and painful.
Agreed.
I remember that evening. I remember just sitting there listening to you and just being so struck by how you were so conscious of who you are as a person and a businesswoman, and how you really integrated that into your life as an entrepreneur. And I'm curious to hear, because we talked offline a bit about my mission, right? My mission is to sort of introduce business people and entrepreneurs to what I think their secret weapon is that most people don't even know they have. And that's their psychology and their mindset, right? So I'm curious if you'll share what your relationship with those two things are and how they show up in your daily work.
I'm happy to. I wish I could tell you that I knew the exact secret sauce for success, but for me, it ebbs and flows. And at its core is always doing something to help other people. So that is kind of like the one thing I think that guides me for sure. But then the rest of it kind of ebbs and flows. Like, for example, we talked last week a little bit about this time and the lessons that we're learning, which are incredibly difficult, but also incredibly valuable. So one of them for me right now is this concept of, when I started McCann Partners, I named it after myself, right? I mean, I guess I didn't have a lot of creativity at that moment, just wanted to get something going. But it's interesting, in the 8 years that I've owned my firm, I've always seen McCann Partners and Megan McCann as one and the same. Mm-hmm. And this period of life right now really taught me that we are not one and the same. I am Megan McCann. McCann Partners is an entity. I am part of that entity. I founded it. But the relationship were really different. And I think that for me has been such an interesting dynamic to wrap my arms around, because what it taught me was that through this time and any time, McCann Partners is going to ebb and flow and change and have ups and downs, as am I as a person and a professional, but we aren't necessarily tied together completely, right? So I think that mindset is something right now that I'm really appreciative of, what it's taught me is that I know I will be fine through this journey.
Mm-hmm.
McCann Partners may look a little different because of the world that we're living in right now, but I'm going to be fine. So I think sometimes just even how you think about the relationship you have with the company that you are in or you have founded as an entrepreneur is really important, just to be healthy and to lead effectively and to
Right.
help other people.
Right. And you know what's so interesting about that is I think it does take a bit of a conscious person to come to that realization, right?
Yeah.
So often the folks that I'm talking to now, they're just on autopilot, right? They're just trying to get from one moment to the next, from one day to the next. So what is it in your past that, or the work that you've done on yourself, that has allowed yourself to kind of calm and then take a 30,000 foot view of what's happening?
That's a great question. Well, let me start by saying it probably took a good week to 10 days into this whole journey for me to get comfortable with the discomfort of the situation.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer that, it's the old adage, is the only thing that's constant is change. But with change, there's also a lot of great opportunity, right? So um, we do get on this wheel sometimes, right? And we're on the wheel going, 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 but we're not like taking a step back to say, wait, just because we've done it like that and that's worked, is that the only way? Or what else could we be doing? And so for me, it's been a good opportunity to take a step back and say, okay, what's really mission critical to the business from every component, right? From spending to how we do things, to how we interact with our consultants and our clients. All of that has been, disrupted. And it's the beauty that has come out of it is we've been able to do things a little bit differently and take a moment to get off the wheel and say, okay, wait, we could do it that way, but what if we tried this? Or how about that? Or we're hearing this from women that are in transition, a lot of the senior level women that are in transition right now. We've been hearing from them that they feel very isolated, that normally if they were in a job search and they were in transition, they would be out networking and interacting with people. And now that feels different and we're doing it differently. So we put together a roundtable so that we can be a support mechanism for those women in transition, and they can be a support mechanism for one another. So we may not have taken the time to do that before, but because we gave ourselves the opportunity to take a greater look at what we could be doing to help and support people and like take a step back, we were able to invest some time there, and it's been a gift.
Great. Megan, can I ask a question? How is it that you cultivate this mindset, this psychology for yourself on a day-to-day basis?
Great question. So I think it's a couple things. My parents, my dad in particular, when we were growing up, he gave us like three things that we had to, wrap our arms around. And I think you've heard me say this before, Andy. First was you always had a firm handshake and you look someone in the eye when you meet them. Two was that you treat everyone exactly the same because we all put our pants on the same way, one leg at a time. And he would then say to me, and Megan, even if you're putting a skirt on, you step in one leg at a time. So the notion was it didn't matter what you did or who you were, you treated people with respect. And then the third notion for him was that you find a way to give back. And so that is part of where some of that energy comes from, just the things that were instilled in me as a child that I now appreciate so much more as an adult. As a child, you got a little tired of hearing it repeated over and over again, but now as an adult, when I think about what guides me, that is certainly part of it. To keep the inspiration, I've been doing a lot of reading. I've been writing my gratitude journal every day, every evening. A friend got me a couple books at the beginning of the year that were a question a day and then 52 lists. So I've been making that part of my practice. I've been getting to my Pilates mat every day. I think I've missed one day over the last 10 weeks. And for me, that helps kind of clear my mind, gets my body moving. And so I've been eating really healthy. So trying to just take good care of myself. And I think the other thing that I realized last week, again, we're all navigating and there are new lessons learned, I think, with every day, is that, the days that you look at yourself and you're like, gosh, I'm really tired. It's
Right.
3 PM. I should not be tired, but I'm tired. And giving yourself permission to embrace that and walk away from the computer for a little while. You can always come back to it. But I walked away last week with the encouragement of my team because they noticed it of me. And I'll tell you, it was the best thing I could have done for myself. Walking away for 2 hours did not cause any impact. And actually, what I will tell you is it had a positive impact because I came back to it later with a fresh set of eyes, a little bit of rest, got some movement in. So I think just taking care of ourselves. You can't put the mask on if you don't put it on yourself.
I
You
don't know
can't.
if you can feel me crawling out of my skin right now, but this is what I preach, right? To all of my clients. What you just said at the very, 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 very end, put your oxygen mask on first.
Have to.
And the fact that you took 2 hours, and it's counterintuitive, right? If I step away, I'm going to lose this 2 hours. But in fact, you fill that tank up.
That's exactly right.
And then you come back more powerful than ever because
Yes.
we tend to lose the fact that we're running on fumes.
Yes.
And no one does good work
No.
on
And
fumes.
especially right now, right? Because if you think about, we're all sheltering in place, which means that even if you have a home office and you're accustomed to working from home, everything is in the home, right? We're working out in the home. We're parenting in the home. We're being, daughters and sisters and aunts in the home. Everything is right here. And so I feel as if that weight is impacting people and we aren't taking time away. We're not taking a day off because we're thinking, well, we're not going to go anywhere. Why would we take a day off? But the reality is we probably need to take a day off to fill ourselves back up because we might have been doing it differently during this time. So it's almost shifting, like I'm walking away from my computer today. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to look at my phone. If I'm going to look at anything, it's for pleasure, right? I'm going to read or whatever, but just give yourself that mental break so that you can come back and be a little bit more refreshed.
100%. And I talk to people all the time that they do feel burnout, right? When your office is 15 feet from your bedroom and a story above the kitchen, it's so easy to I'll just go to the office, right?
Yeah,
it's so
absolutely.
easy to stay busy.
Yeah.
I learned early on in quarantine, treat this like every other day.
Agreed.
Keep the routine going, get up at the same time, do the same routine, go into the office, whatever your office hours are, 9 to 5, at 5 o'clock, walk out.
Yeah. Yes.
Because we have to take good care of ourselves. And when we
Yeah.
do, you then are able to take that 30,000 foot view and look at your relationship with yourself and your business.
Absolutely.
You're able to think about and be cognizant of the fact that you need to step away and recharge.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. It's not easy to do. Let me be clear about that, right? But it is, I think, very necessary for sure.
Yeah. Can I ask, before we kind of get into some of the questions that folks have submitted, and I know this is what a lot of leaders and entrepreneurs are grappling with right now. What has Megan and McCann Partners done to kind of adjust to this new normal?
A lot. And it changes every day, right? So
Right.
you're constantly, because the situation is evolving, what we're doing right now is actually going to pave the way moving forward. I said to someone on my team last week, when people start going back to work, it's not like all of a sudden our clients are going to be so excited to welcome us into their office space. They're not. So even that dynamic is really going to be changing. So we're certainly looking at what does that look like in terms of building relationships. How do you leverage the tools that are out there to, make an impact? How can we help the people that are in transition right now that might need a little extra support right now?
Hmm.
How do you, people are needing to hire, but they're worried about hiring because they've never done it remotely before. So trying to share some best practices that we've learned from the diverse set of clients we are working with.
Right.
The other really big one that everyone is talking about right now, those that are hiring, is onboarding, right? It's almost easier right now to do the interview process because this works, right? But when someone comes into the fold and we're not sitting right next to them, how do you build a relationship with them? How do you make certain that culture is part of that? How do you help them find where the resources are? So really, we're doing, even though our business is recruitment, we're talking a lot about onboarding and successful practices for onboarding, because that is really the next challenge for a lot of organizations. They've gotten to this point where maybe they've been interviewing people and had interaction with them, so they had met them or are feeling comfortable with this video interview process now, but the onboarding is keeping people up at night. So working through sharing best practices, and I think those things will continue to be a new part of our conversation with clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's fantastic. Can I ask
Thank you.
a bit of a personal,
Yes.
from the CEO at home version of what's happening? I've gotten some feedback from folks as I was talking about this series, and they feel like, entrepreneurs and CEOs, they hop on and they say, well, this is how you do it. But somehow there's a disconnect, especially when it comes to like new entrepreneurs, that they don't necessarily feel or see the struggle that a person like you, who's been established for years in the community and running a successful business. Can you talk about the emotions that have hit you when this started and how you navigated through it? Because I think that is a touchstone that people can relate to.
Yeah.
Everybody deals with it.
Yes. So, in full disclosure, when I felt the weight of it most was a Friday night, and I enjoyed a bottle of wine by myself. I might have opened a second one. And I went to bed emotional and sad and probably a little depressed, quite frankly. And I woke up on Saturday morning and I said, okay, Megan, you've got to put your big girl pants on. Like you've got this. You're the only one that can do it. So you either can feel sorry for yourself or you can push your way through it and know that you're going to make decisions that are not easy. You're going to make decisions that are going to impact people, many of whom you love and respect.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you have to make the hard decisions because that's what you took on when you decided to start McCann Partners.
Right.
And that's what I did. And it certainly, there are days that are better than others. I choose to look at this from a place of abundance and gratitude. And if we walk out of this as an organization, I'm not as concerned about our numbers as I am about keeping the people that are working. For me, that would be the greatest gift because it will help them take care of themselves and their families. It will help my team take care of, themselves and their families. I will be fine. That would be the greatest gift. And so every day, that's what I focus on, is making certain that the people are out there, that are consultants that are out there, and any work that we're doing for clients right now, and we are fortunately still putting people to work, that we are being as mindful of what they need and supporting them, from everything from virtual coffees to sending videos for Pilates to playlists to get them moving, anything that we can do to support them. And there are good days and bad days. What you're seeing right now is the good day, right?
Yeah.
Thursday afternoon was not a good day, right? It was a little emotional. I was tired. So it is a journey. And I think I'm going to go back and say the thing I would recommend to anyone, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working for someone, it doesn't matter, is you have to take care of yourself. You have to keep yourself healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually, all of the above for me. And whatever that practice looks like for you, you have to be religious to it. Because otherwise, that's when I think we start to let fear creep in. It's when we let negative self-talk creep in. imposter syndrome, all of these things, right? And so if we can kind of just keep a positive outlook by doing those things that keep us healthy that way, well rested, well fed, I think that also really, for me right now, is helping tremendously. Not easy. I don't want it to sound like it's easy. It is not, but it's helping.
Sage advice. Yes.
Thank you.
You know, I always equate it to, training for a marathon, right? Anything that we want to do that is meaningful is going to take some work and
Absolutely.
training. And that's how I look at my daily self-care routine. It's
Yes.
like, and that includes some exercise, but these are the things that I need to do to stay in shape mentally, spiritually,
Yes.
emotionally, physically.
Yes. Yes.
So I
And it's a
love
whole
that you share
thing.
that.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. And whatever it is, everyone kind of finds something that works differently for them. It might be meditation, it might be reading, it might be journaling, whatever. Just even if you do it 10 minutes, I think 10 minutes is better than no minutes.
What I love that you said early on was a gratitude practice.
Mhm.
I find that to be, for me, one of the best practices that I can exercise. Because
Agreed.
when you experience the emotion and energy of gratitude, you can't experience the scarcity, the fear. Our brains can only experience one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And so when we infuse our psyche and mind and body with those wonderful, loving feelings, it raises our vibration in such a beautiful way that is necessary, especially in times like this.
I could not agree more. And I also, for me, it's this time has also, the things that I'm grateful for are sometimes the color yellow. I wrote that last week. I literally wrote yellow last week because I have a lot of yellow in my home, and it brings me such joy. I never realized how much the color yellow brought me joy until I was sitting here in my kitchen with my coffee and my gratitude journal, and I was like, yellow. I'm so grateful for the color yellow, right? So it makes you really realize what's important.
100%. And you know what? I've talked to many a client about this very thing. It's clearly frightening what's happening in the world. People are suffering economically, health-wise. They're losing family members. There's certainly a lot of tragedy that's happening. But for many, with just a shift in perspective, we can see that there's so much good coming from it. We're slowing down. We're, in my own family, we're connecting more as a family because we're forced to, right?
Yes. Yes.
We're having family nights, movie nights, game nights, having more time to really think about, okay, what's really important? When things start to be taken away from you, freedoms and finances and that clients, whatever, you really can start to think about what's super important.
Yes. Yes.
That's a gift.
And it's crazy. It's crazy to think the things that, there are 5 of us from college that are very close, and we stay very close. And we were supposed to travel with one another last weekend, which obviously did not happen. But we have been in touch like daily by our text string. We have had more videos with one another than you can imagine. And it's comical because we could have been doing this all along. Right? It's not like this tool just came out and all of a sudden we're like, this is a new shiny object and we can just use it for this. We could have been doing this all along. So it's interesting what times like this do bring out. And I don't know if I told you this or not, but I started a list of like blessings and lessons learned from COVID. And I have 2 categories. I have like blessings and then lessons learned. And they're the same, but slightly different. And that list grows daily. It's astonishing. And I'm home. I'm quarantined by myself. So it is just me that's creating this stuff with outside people like you, right? But there are so many wonderful gifts that I hope people will take a moment to wrap their arms around that piece of it. That would be my wish for everyone, is they walk out of this experience changed for the better with some lessons learned that will help them as they move forward in life, right? For all of us, just a different level of appreciation.
Yeah, a different perspective, one that is full of much more meaning.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Oh, that's so good, Megan. Thank you.
No, thank you.
So, I've reached out to my community and I've gotten several questions.
Okay,
I'm wondering if I can share some with you and get your insights.
absolutely. I would love to.
Um, Karen would like to know, what do you know now that you wish you'd knew when you started your business?
Uh, don't listen to what anyone says. Just listen to your intuition.
Mm, I love that.
Just listen to your intuition. We have it for a reason. That is not to say you don't make informed decisions.
Hmm.
You make informed decisions, so you can listen to what people have to say, but you don't have to act upon it. You can take it as advisement to come up with whatever you think is right. And there's more
Right.
than one way of doing things, for
That's what
sure.
I was just getting ready to say. There is no one size fits all
That's
in
right.
entrepreneurship. And in many ways, it's, I think, better to swim upstream. What is
Yes.
everybody doing? Oh, let me do it this way,
Yes.
because there's so much noise.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
love that. Um, Ashley would like to know, what's one of your biggest mistakes or lessons learned, and how did you recover?
Um, well, let's see, probably about 5 years ago now. Yeah, probably about 5 years ago, we had had a dip in revenue, and it was, when I look back on it now, hindsight's always 2020. But when I look back on it now, we were fine. It was definitely a dip in revenue, but I started to question myself and thought about maybe walking away from the business, because I was letting fear drive me, and that that scenario impacted some people that are important to me. And it took a while to get over that. I hurt some relationships, personal and professional, with some of the decisions I was making, because I wasn't looking as objectively at the picture. I was really looking at it through a lens of fear. And so thankfully those relationships are good, but it took some time, and that it could have had a bigger impact if I had not realized at one point, like, I just need to take a step back here. And gratefully I did. I'm so happy that I am still with McCann Partners, and my team is my team. And it was the right decision, but it was not necessarily an easy time.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Antoinette asks, how do you, when you experience fear
Yeah.
or trepidation or nervousness, how do you move past that to actually take action?
I think of what the worst case scenario could be, get comfortable with it, and then move forward.
And you know what? To some, that can sound easier said than done, but it takes practice, right?
Absolutely.
And what we realize is that when we kind of step out and risk a little bit, even though it's scary, and even though it may not work out the way we want it to, if we look at that fullness of circumstance, we realize, oh, we're still okay.
That's exactly right. I mean, even like using the example of COVID, hate to keep bringing it back to it, but this is where we
Mhm.
are right now, right? Even looking at that, after I had the pity party for myself, I then looked at it and said, okay, what is the worst thing that could happen through COVID? What is the absolute worst thing? And what I learned was, McCann Partners may not look the way it looked going into COVID, but as long as I was healthy, I was going to be fine. And ever since then, I don't think about it from a place of fear, because I know at the end I will be fine as long as I keep myself healthy, right? Um, and that's the worst. That's truly the worst, right? McCann
Right.
Partners is going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. But at that moment, I didn't know. And so I had to go to the fact that it might not be. And now I know it's going to be fine. And I'm just like shifted the energy and moving forward.
And that is so important. I've talked to many of my business clients about first, we need to look at all possibilities,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We need to put on the table what could happen, right?
Yes.
So many people kind of adopt hope as a strategy, right? Let me just close my eyes,
yes.
cross my fingers, and then just
Yes.
pray we get through it. Well,
Yes.
you can't make any decisions from that place.
No,
So
not at all.
if you have on the table, you know, staying flat or perhaps bankruptcy, whatever that is, you can then make the best decisions possible moving forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a scary prospect to look at all of the possible scenarios, but it's absolutely necessary as a business owner and entrepreneur, because you want to be able to make the best decisions.
Absolutely. And you know, the sage advice that most people give to entrepreneurs is fail, you know, often and fast, right? And I think sometimes we equate that to the business idea. So if the business idea, then you get in and out quickly, right? But at the micro level, you can apply that to day-to-day decisions, right? So try it. If it doesn't work, pivot, right? So especially when there are situations that are potentially low risk or low cost, depending on what you're looking at, right? You can try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But just know when to say, okay, it didn't work, and move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I find too, because things are so heightened right now, entrepreneurs are afraid to fail because they think in this time that any failure is fatal because of the heightened sense of what's happening. Mm-hmm. It's just another time.
It is just another time. Yeah. And I, you know, I'm a glass half full, not half empty. Mm-hmm. And I am also not watching the news right now. I've done it purposefully because I think that for me, whatever is right for any individual, they need to do. But for me, I don't want to be pulled down. I need to keep the positivity for me. And what I've learned is what I need to know, I will always know. For mm-hmm. someone telling me or asking, and then all of a sudden I will go look, right? But I don't need to consume that weight. I just need to focus on me and what we're doing to be helpful and healthy and impactful. And that includes making mistakes, right? Not every idea I have is a good one. I can tell you, we tried something that fell flat. I thought it was going to be great. It fell flat on our face. And I was like, okay, well, that didn't work. Cost us a little time. Let's move on and try something else, right? And so that's what you do.
Yeah, I think that is there's a resiliency that's needed as an entrepreneur to not let things stick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're always A/B testing.
Yes.
Right? A lot of times I always equate it to remember that game? I don't know if you played it when we were kids, where somebody would hide something and you would go look for it and they would say hotter.
Yes.
Colder.
Yes.
I look at it that way, right?
Yeah.
Just move
in
a
my gosh,
direction.
I love that analogy. Yeah.
And listen to what feedback you're getting. It doesn't mean that the game is over. It just means you got to shift a little bit.
That's exactly right. And interestingly, the thing that we tried that we fell flat on, I rewrote the messaging and made it more authentic to what I really wanted to say versus what I thought I should say. And we had great success with it. But it was because I was being me. The first time I wasn't being me. I was putting it out there as something I thought we needed to do, and I thought it was a great idea. But if you put the invitations to the two things side by side, the first one did not sound like me at all. It did not capture the essence of what we were trying to do. It was a little bit more formal and scripted. And then when I did this, which was a little bit more of my emotion and the desire to want to impact and help women, these things that are really core to me, we got flooded with great response, right? So it's another testament of the A/B testing and also being true to who you are as an entrepreneur, because there's some secret sauce in that, right?
You can probably see me going, oh, like I feel like popcorn right now, because that's another thing that I truly, truly believe in, right? There's so much noise in this world. right? When it comes to business, and it's everywhere on every social media platform, everywhere. When it comes to IT recruiting, or if it comes to coaching, consulting, there's 1,000 different places to go.
Yes.
And people want to meet people.
Yes.
They want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And I think when you shifted that message to be Megan, who happens to run and own
That's right.
Megan McCann Partners,
That's
it
right.
resonated on such a different level. I love that
Yeah.
you brought that up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's to your point though, the A/B testing is really important with a lot of things. It's sometimes it's just how you package it. The idea
Mhm.
might be great, it's just how you package it.
That's right, 100%. Another question. Obviously, our face-to-face has been taken away from us with COVID. Um, Michelle wants to know, what do you think the best way to connect with and attract new clients is in this new kind of digital only era?
Um, wish I had a crystal ball and a perfect answer. I don't. It's going back to the A/B testing. You're just trying a lot of things, quite frankly. Um, for us, I think we are fortunate because we are so ingrained with the female IT community, certainly here in Chicago, but beyond through ARA, and the fact that people are really wanting to talk about hiring diversely, we tend to use that as a jumping off point because people are talking about hiring diversely and the importance of having diverse teams. So that is a very nice, warm way to talk about things and talk about the context of hiring. I think interestingly, for us right now, people are craving interaction differently than they did before. So
Mhm.
I almost feel that some of the outreach has been easier because of that. And just really checking in to see how people are doing and wanting to share again some best practices that we're seeing, or um, also, what can I do to help you? It doesn't have to be about hiring right now. It's just like, what can I do to support you and your team right now? Where are you struggling? Is there
Right.
anyone I can make an introduction to in my network that would help you right now? So I'm going to go back to that premise too, the notion of meaningful connections and helping people. At the end of the day, I think that is so important right now. It certainly is important to me personally and professionally when someone will say like, what can I do to help you? It's almost like takes my breath away sometimes, right?
Yep.
And yet it feels really good. So if I can do that for others, that's really, I think, what we're trying to do. And just, like I said earlier, trying to share some unique things. We worked with a female entrepreneur who's a DJ. We created a couple of playlists for our consultants and our clients, some music that they could have in the background while they're working. There's a dance mix, which I will be honest in saying I've danced in my kitchen too, just with fun music, right? But again, you mentioned vibration. Music lifts your vibration, right? And sometimes that movement, even of dancing in your kitchen or with your kids or whatever, that alone can make you feel better. I work with a Pilates studio, woman and husband um, husband and wife team. She does the Pilates. He has the coffee in the front of the studio. And so when I've decided to do things, I've tried to support other female entrepreneurs. And so we sent out a couple videos to our clients and to our consultants again, just movement. We're all sitting. If you don't have a normal desk set up at home as an office, some of us are sitting in really unique places. So
Mhm.
we're scrunched, or maybe we're not walking as much, right? So how do you get movement in? And so we've used that just as a say, here are 3 10-minute videos. We all can walk away from our computer for 10 minutes and get a little bit of movement in. So doing things like that has really served us well. And we feel like it's a warm touch point just to let our community know that we're thinking of them. You
Yes.
mentioned Ara at the onset. Um, we are starting a series of remote events as well. And I think that's another warm way to create community and do outreach as well. So those are some of the things that we're doing.
I love everything about what you just said.
Oh,
I
thank you.
knew from the moment I heard you speak a couple of months ago that we were kindred spirits. It's all about serving, right?
Yes.
It is all about serving. Gary Vaynerchuk has a great book called Jab, 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 Right Hook.
Oh, not
I
read
don't
it.
really love the right hook analogy, boxing, fighting, but the whole premise is give, give,
Mhm.
give, and then ask.
Absolutely.
Because that creates so much trust and relationship, and it's so much better to do business from a relationship rather than a transaction.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. It's
Yeah,
better for everyone, really, right? And
yeah, yeah.
and we're in the people business, and people are not perfect. So product is not perfect either sometimes, but certainly people are not, right? So
Hmm.
to have the ability to have candid conversations when you're dealing with talent is really important, and if you don't have that foundation, it doesn't happen, or it can happen. It's just not as easy, right? If I can just pick up the phone and call and say, hey, let's talk through this, let me tell you what my concerns are, or here's what happened, my advice would be that you do this versus that. And sometimes it happened recently. We had a candidate who missed an interview, and it, my business is placing talent. And when I listened to why he missed the interview, I went back to the client and she said, let's reschedule. And I said, no, I don't think that's a good idea. She's like, you're kidding. I said, I don't. Understanding why he missed the interview. I'm sorry I didn't catch it before, but based on the why, I don't feel comfortable having you interview him because I don't think he's the type of person that you're going to want on your team. And I'll tell you, it was not easy for a variety of reasons. My goal is to get people to work, right? However, we are accountable for our actions. And the fact that he had missed the interview is on him, not me, right? And
Right.
so, I think if I wouldn't have had the relationship with the hiring manager, maybe the outcome would have been different. But I felt like it was the right thing, and being able to be very honest and authentic and saying, this is why. She was so appreciative. She said, I don't think many people would have done that. I think most people would have just rescheduled the interview and not, made up an excuse. And I said, well, I'm not going to make an excuse up. My goal is to help you. And I don't feel like moving this interview forward would be in service to you. So, those candid conversations are really important and critical in building relationships with clients.
Yes, I love that. Yes, and you know what? The integrity piece of that, in wanting to deliver the best product to that client, even if it's taking something off the table. I mean, how
Yes,
beautiful is that?
yes,
Awesome.
yes, yes.
Awesome. I love that. One last question.
Okay.
What is the best piece of advice that you've gotten?
Um, Ask, because if you don't, you won't give someone the opportunity to say yes.
I love it. The answer is always no unless you ask.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I had a client who just went through that. He was terrified to ask for something. And literally, he said, I was sitting at my computer for 30 minutes, afraid to send the email. And after hitting send, within 15 minutes, he got a yes.
Yes. Yes.
Ask.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Simple. The premise is simple. The act of doing it is always, it can be really difficult, right? And I think when you ask, you have to be specific too. So I've had people over the years come to me and say, I'm looking for a job. Will you help me? And I would say, sure, I'm happy to help you. What are you looking for? Help me understand kind of the type of roles that you're looking for. And if they aren't able to articulate what they're looking for, I can't help them, because it's like getting in your car and not knowing if you're going north, south, east, or west. You have to start going one direction. It's not that you can't pivot. You can't start going north and then all of a sudden head east or west, right? And then south again. You can do that, but you have to have a starting point of where you're headed. And so when you ask, you have to be specific, or as specific as you can be in that moment based on what you're asking for. I think that's the other piece of advice I would add to that, right? Is yes, ask, but know what you're asking for and why, so that you understand how to make the ask appropriately.
Right. Beautiful, beautiful advice. Megan, thank you so much for the
My
time you've given
pleasure.
us today. Where can people find you? Tell us tell us a little bit more about ARA.
Sure, sure. So you can find me on social media. I am on LinkedIn, Twitter. My personal handle is Megan, MEGANP McCann, MCCANN, on Twitter. Megan McCann on LinkedIn. And then McCann Partners, MCCANN, partners with an S.com. And that's also our Twitter handle. ARA, you can find ARA at aramentors.com. It's also our Twitter handle. And please reach out. I'm sure when we have this up, you will tag me. Please have anyone reach out to me via social. Happy to share the programming that we're going to be kicking off next week, actually, for ARA. And we've got a great lineup of speakers to help with everything from mom hacks when we're working at home and homeschooling, to work-life integration, to how to rebrand yourself when you are in the midst of professional change, and a lot of other things. So we've got some great people lined up to contribute to the effort, and we would love to welcome people. They will be once a week for 45 minutes to an hour. And we're testing, talk about A/B testing again. We're testing a couple of different times to see what works best for people. So over lunch and then towards the end of the day.
That is awesome. I love what you do as a businesswoman, but I love what you do to give back. You can tell that you care about people. You can tell that you really want to lift up women, particularly in the business arena. And I, for one, am very grateful to you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And thank you so much for having me and for what you're doing to support your community and beyond right now. I think all of these wonderful outreach points and learning opportunities, sometimes that little nugget that people need to get them through the next day can be delivered in a format like this. And you will not understand the full impact of what you're doing, the ripple effect, whatever you want to call it, the parlay effect, the domino effect, you name it, it's happening. So thank you for doing that for so many and letting me be part of that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much, Megan.
You're
Wish
welcome.
you such success in the future. And I can't wait until life gets back to normal and then we can reconnect in person.
Ditto, ditto. Healthy wishes to you and your family.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.